Oh, happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to my show where it really is okay to not be okay. I'm Rae Bonney, a qualified counsellor, workplace mental health specialist, and not to mention a very dedicated and oftentimes enthusiastically disruptive men's issues advocate. It's not every girl's dream job, but hey, remember, men also matter. Hopping into the second week of April and just a whisker away from the Easter Bunny and all of his, or her, bounding about. We just heard from Michelle Ciccardo with her fabulous new show, Programma Italiana. Did I say that right, Michelle? She replaces longtime presenter Nina Nicolato, who presented her Italian show, dedicating her time and talent here at 3WBC for more than 20 years. So thank you again, Nina, and continue to wish you all the very best and hope you're listening in. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Remember, my show airs live every second Sunday of the month between 10:30 until 12 noon, and I meet with guests from all over the world sharing what it feels like being them and also recognising that it really is okay to not be okay. Now, today's show could easily be mistaken for Father's Day with what I have in store for you, but it's not, so don't panic. Now, look, not many people know that approximately 20% of Australia's population is made up of dads. There are around 4.6 million in Australia, with an estimated 2.2 million with children aged under 18. Now, of these, approximately 156,000 are single-parent fathers who look after 228,000 children, averaging 1.5 kids for each single dad. Now, there's a Sunday morning maths methods tutorial for you. More seriously, though, this summary illuminates a need in support for our Aussie dads. And way back in 2018, collaborating fathers Jeremy Macvean, Luke Benedictus and Andrew McCutcheon stepped up, recognising the gap, and created something amazing to better support this huge community of guys and their families. Fatherhood is a new medium, platform and community designed to help dads survive and thrive. It's a lifestyle resource that delivers support, inspiration and daily laughs to dads through content and events. The brand encourages fathers to navigate with less stress, more confidence, and uses language and an approach to help dismantle the negative stereotypes of dads. Redefining the modern experience where men are raising kids in all kinds of environments, Jeremy and his team believe that becoming a father is the greatest opportunity a man can get. They also get that fatherhood changes you. Fatherhood changes everything. Now, Jeremy speaks of breathing a sigh of relief when the teacher of his male-only antenatal class advised, to be a good dad, just turn up and try. And I have him here, live in the studio today to talk, amongst many other things, about what happened next. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Hi, Ray, how are you?
My intros get longer and longer every time, I think, don't they?
It's a good one, thank you.
That's an absolute pleasure. Now, we were chatting off air before when Michelle was still on about when we actually met, and we deduced it was about 2.5 years ago.
About that, I'd say, yeah. We're working on a suicide prevention campaign together.
Yeah. Straight into the light stuff. Yeah. Right. with Movember, and that was the first time that Movember started speaking about suicide prevention in their campaign.
In that way. It's been a really important part of Movember's DNA, mental health and suicide prevention, for a long time.
Yes.
But outside of the month of Movember, they hadn't spoken in that way, and we were working on a campaign together and preparing the staff and the team and for the questions and the conversations that would come off the back of it. Yes,
and I remember there were a few very early mornings and very late nights as we were crossing to the UK and the US and Canada for some of those presentations. And I think at one stage I cried when I got to the point of telling the story. That does get me emotional, but it was very...
First thing in the morning, it really gets you.
Now, before we kick off and delve straight into the fatherhood, which we've mentioned briefly already, you have many, many other accomplishments, including Movember. How many campaigns have you delivered at Movember?
I think I'm now coming into this Movember will be my 6th. So I've been around Movember for a while. A fantastic place.
Yeah.
Doing really great people doing really great things.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a pleasure to be part of that team. Yeah. Does
it ever come to about July and then you start sort of thinking, oh, here we go again?
You get used to it. It's quite funny. When I first joined Movember in the fundraising team, I remember I'd accepted the role and I went for a coffee. It was in about June or so, and that kind of welcome to the team kind of thing, coffee, and the CEO and another guy that I was meeting with just to say hi, both had mustaches at that time of the year. And so I remember going home to my wife saying, I think it's going to be more than 1 month of the year that I'm going to be rocking a mo. That was the case. I mean, it's just part of the brand when you're there.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you end up getting quite used to it. Quite funny, I'm lucky enough to have 3 daughters, and 2 of them were born in the month of November.
Oh, jeepers.
The eldest is 8. So as I said, I've been around November for most of their lives.
Yes.
And so in every one of their birthday photos, there's Dad with a big bushy mo hanging over a birthday cake. And that's going to be forever.
Yeah.
So it's part of my life now.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what Movember's achieved just from the symbol, the humble beginnings. Adam Garoni has been on this show before and talked in depth about his experience of Movember, being one of the founders. And
it's amazing. It's just an amazing story that what was a joke between 2 mates over a beer about a moustache growing competition has grown organically, a really grassroots movement. Yeah, that's right. Moustache by moustache around the world. It's to become I think probably the biggest peer-to-peer fundraising movement in the world. So it's an amazing story, and those guys are still involved, and it's a really fantastic thing.
Well, it's testament to what people can do when they care.
Yeah, yeah.
And, the world really isn't that disengaged.
No, yeah, people want to do something to help. And
be part of something.
Yeah, it's a real movement.
But you have a pretty strong background in health in general across men's and women's health, which a lot of people don't know because you're quite well known in the Movember space, and now, of course, the fatherhood. But can you give us a little thumbnail sketch of the other things that you've been and still involved in?
For sure. So my background, I'm a communications person, like a marketing person. Started my life in advertising agencies and then was lucky enough to spend 8 years.
Was lucky enough to stay alive.
No, made it through that. Learned a lot through the process, and then got into radio. So it's nice to be back in the studio. So I was at Oz Stereo, or Southern Cross Oz Stereo, for around 8 years in marketing roles and then digital roles. And fantastic organisation, really great industry, vibrant, moves quickly, lots of energy. So an easy thing to talk about at parties. You'd say I work at Fox FM or Triple M, and people want to talk to you about it. So I really enjoyed that part of my career. But I just got to this point where there was a longing to do more, a longing to use those communication skills to have an outcome that was positive in the community. And with a really supportive wife, it just led to this kind of midlife crisis, self-development kind of process of thinking, right, where would I send my career? I don't necessarily want to be that massive earning CEO that gets burnt out and loses contact with his family. So made the choice to kick out and try something else. And that sent me in the direction of health, just sort of by chance. I do remember seeing a video profiling Are You OK as an organisation, and Gavin Larkin, who was the founder, and watching this thing, and he had a similar background to me.
Yes. Probably he was a little more naughty than you back then.
Probably, yeah, the way he went about it and shook the things up. But it inspired me as I was sort of watching his story, and it's a very sad story, and kind of wiping the tears away, thinking, wow, like he did it. He made a difference. He got involved in health and men's health, and I found that really inspiring. So that was a moment where I remember watching that, thinking, right, these communication skills can be used across health. So I was lucky enough, an opportunity came up to go to the Women's Hospital and consult and advise to them in digital strategy. So that's where I started my health journey.
That was back in what year?
Oh, how old am I now? So this would be about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Was there, and that was a total culture shock. I'd come from radio and I was in the health sector, really different.
Slow down.
Really risk averse as a culture, structured. So in radio, if you decide you want to do something, you get it on air that afternoon. Let's do something now. Whereas within the health sector, because it's like lives are on the line. Things take a long time. They go through a process. But that was a real eye-opener for me. It was a real learning of, right, if you're going to work within health, there's certain frameworks that you need to work within. It needs evidence-based to move things forward, and you need to stand up to questioning around, well, what's the outcome really going to be, and what's the risk associated with the messaging or what you're intending to do, and be really robust in your thinking around that. Having come out of radio, much less of an issue. It'd be, let's give it a go, and if it fails, let's just, who cares? We'll move on and do something else. But in health, a really different approach. So that got me started into that sort of headspace. Then again, the Movember job came up and I went at that. It's just something about men's health that lights me up. I've got 2 older brothers and went to an all-boys school until years 11 and 12. So there's just part of me that just gets lit up by the issues around men's health. So the opportunity for Movember came up. And so I jumped at that, which I'm sure we'll talk about some more. And then, and also at Peter Mac, there was a consulting job at Peter Mac that came up, and so many people are impacted by cancer in such a huge way. I mean, everyone knows someone who's had it or got it or passed away as a result of cancer. So an opportunity came up to go and contribute and help move Peter Mac forward in terms of their use of digital media to communicate with their audience and their patients and carers, and yeah, it was just I jumped at that as well. Just a really great opportunity to get inside and organise a fantastic organisation like that. And it was humbling to be working with these doctors that are mid-surgery, come out from surgery, have a break, talk to you about the website, then go back in and do what they do every day.
Oh, I was with a friend last night, Donna Gans, and she's also been on the show, but she works in adolescent cancer, does amazing work, and yes, so I was thinking about you last night when I was chatting with her about her work. That is terribly inspiring, but also heartbreaking. At the same time, that there's not a lot of funding for it, in particular with the adolescents.
Yeah, and it's such a difficult topic. I mean, it's so hard. So you would think walking into Peter Mac it would be really dreary, but it's actually, there's so much love there because it brings the best out in people. People really looking after each other in moments of, the kind of the hardest moments in life. So there's a lot of hope and a lot of love and support within that organisation. So it's a great place.
Do you think that these experiences that you've just described, even Austereo, being across a really broad audience helps you when you're dealing specifically with men's issues because you've got that broader approach?
I think so, yeah. So I think what myself and the fatherhood guys are able to bring to the table is this ability to connect, as you call in marketing terms, with the target audience, kind of understand who you're talking to and then communicate with that audience in a way that they're going to understand. So I'm really excited broadly across health with the opportunity that we've got. There's great services out there. There's great information out there. It's just not getting into the hands of the people that could really benefit from it. And so that's where these communication skills can come in and say, right, okay, how do we communicate that service, or how do we communicate that need or identify your need in a way that feels really normal to you and feels really everyday to encourage the masses to step up and feel like, oh, this speaks to me. I understand that, and I'll step forward. And that can be in all forms of health, but particularly mental health, where a lot of people are kind of think, oh, I wouldn't go and see a psychologist, I wouldn't go and see a counsellor. That's not me. But if you say, oh, are you sleeping well, or how are you, kind of everyday sort of things, or from a father's perspective, how's things going at home? You feeling a bit down or a bit tense, or those kind of things. That's a way to use everyday language to connect, sort of understand your audience and then connect with them in a way that they want to consume that content.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges in the mental health space in particular, is there is so much literature out there that is often very conflatist and conflicting, and so for people seeking support, it's difficult to know where to start quite often.
Yep.
So when, I know we're going to talk about this more in the show, but, the approach of the fatherhood, having this amazing repertoire of people who are skilled in communications and skilled in writing to connect with as you said, the target audience, it's a lot easier for you to find people, I guess, and then connect.
Yeah, because we don't claim to be subject matter experts in...
Who is, yeah.
In any of this, like in dads or mental health or any of those topics, there's people out there creating great resources and great services.
Yes.
Really, we see ourselves as the connection point to be able to hopefully attract a whole bunch of dads to come to the fatherhood and share their stories and be part of that community, and then connect in with those people that are the experts.
Yes. Are you, in terms of where you launched in November, was it?
Just before Father's Day last year, we got started.
Oh, gosh. Because I remember we had a lunch earlier in the year with Travis Strong from White Owl for Men's Health, and you were in those early stages then of not being able to talk about too much, but there was something happening. Yeah.
It all happened really quickly. That's the one great thing. It was organic. It came out of a need. Me and two other guys.
Yep.
Actually, one of them, Andrew and I, were talking, and Andrew was talking to Luke. I didn't know Luke at the time, but it came out of just dad to dad, mate to mate chats, and it organically happened. At that stage, it was probably a very small idea. And then Andrew is a real go-getter, one of the guys on the team, and he was like, let's do this. Let's not just chat about it. Let's get going. And so it happened organically, but super fast, which was awesome.
Well, I'm very excited to hear the deep dive on the fatherhood, and I know that there's some amazing stories attached to its evolution. So we'll go to a break quickly. But before we do, I wanted to ask you a question first up in the show. What's it like being a dad?
What's it like being a dad? It's hard to answer. Being a dad is the greatest, for me, the greatest opportunity, the greatest experience I've had in life, but the greatest challenge I've had as well. So as soon as I became a dad, everything changed. Relationships with friends, relationship with my partner, my relationship to work, my relationship with family. So what's it like being a dad? It's very hard to answer in a sentence. It's inspiring, whilst also being super challenging.
When you talk about challenge, what was challenge like for you? Could you describe it?
There was a moment that I kind of come back to where it hit me. We were at the Women's Hospital, and we'd had Amara, our first daughter, and I remember going down at some stage, probably the next day, to get a cup of coffee, an everyday activity, standing in the queue, and this feeling of, wow, the stakes have just gone up. The stakes in life have just gone up to, I just wasn't, it hit me like a ton of bricks, like my mortality, I need to be looking after something now, and I need to be keeping my job now because I've got to be providing for this kid, and everything just seemed to be super heightened. And obviously you're emotionally heightened because you've been through this amazing experience of seeing a human come into the world and your first child, and so all your emotions are heightened. But I had this overwhelming feeling of everything's just got bigger, and that's bigger in terms of joy and bigger in terms of love, and also bigger in terms of pressure. And so I felt that. So that was something that really hit me. And the more dads I talk to and friends and colleagues and stuff, I think a lot of people go through the same thing. They get hit by this wave of expectation. Don't kind of know what that means. Like, what does being a good dad mean? I don't know, but I just feel this increased pressure all of a sudden, and life just got more serious.
Do you think that, I know that's one of the gaps that you guys want to fill as well, is that a dad's prepared for that moment? Mothers, biologically, we're carrying a child, so we're preparing every single day for that moment, and we're very in touch with it because we're literally in touch with it.
Yep.
Whereas for dads are often bystanders and preparing for the child to come, so, maybe out working and distracted by getting things prepared, that when that moment comes that you described can be quite overwhelming.
Yeah, I can speak from my experience, and it's what you were saying there, Rae. It's, you go to work and you'd almost kind of forget, you go and do a radio interview and not be thinking I'm going to be a dad in a few months' time.
Yes.
Whereas for mums, they're carrying this child around and making this child, so it is a very different experience for men and women.
Yes.
That was my experience. It didn't hit me until I was holding my child. Like, it's kind of, even then, it's such a weird process, seeing your baby born. It's such a kind of, it doesn't make sense.
But we were also talking before about somebody commented on social media when we were posting about the show today that you can't speak about gender-specific parenting, especially in the workplace. And you and I were sort of saying, well, it's very, very different. And the experience of, you know, the biological experience of a woman and the biological experience of a man is different. And I think we under-recognise, if that's a word, that men have a biological connection to their children.
Yep.
So when you hold your child and you feel all of these things, it's biology in action. It's not here's my child, I have to love it. It really does ignite, and I don't think we recognise that's a thing.
Yeah, and it is a different thing. It's different for men and women. It's different for individuals. These things happen at different rates, and connections with kids happen at different rates. So it is different. And one thing we talk a lot about with the fatherhood is the gender roles have been turned on their head in one generation. So going back to the story where I was lucky enough to be at the birth of my 3 daughters, which was extraordinary, to be there and hold them straight away and rip my shirt off and go skin on skin and hold these little things. I was there. So this generation of fathers are hands-on right there. My dad had 3 kids and he wasn't invited to the room. And he tells stories quite passionately of holding up his surname behind glass, and they'd sort of wheel the baby over behind glass to show him his child. And so it's just in one generation, we've gone from this whole different experience from a dad's perspective of how involved you are, and that's just one example of it. And so what we think is happening now is the rule book has been thrown out the window in terms of the gender roles and what we're supposed to be doing and what success looks like. You know, it was easier, I think, in some ways, to go and earn lots of money and be a provider and you're doing the right thing, Dad. But now that's changed in a really fantastic way. The gender roles have blurred and we're all getting much more involved in different things, and that's a wonderful thing. But as a community now, we're making it up together.
Yes.
How do we work this out? How do we share going to work? How do we share caring at home? How do we share? What do we share and what don't we share? And there are always going to be differences in breastfeeding, as an example, and early care. So we're making that up, and it's wonderful. But that's what we're trying to do with the fatherhood is work together to share these stories and work out our way through the new gender roles.
And you see so many amazing examples of families being really thoughtful about how they plan their families and thinking about, you know, what are we going to do? What are we going to look like? What are we going to stand for? And, you know, as you said, families come in all shapes and forms now where, you know, it's not specifically around women staying at home and men going out. We have same-sex families, which, you know, is fantastic that we embrace the diversity of what a family looks like.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So much change. It's fantastic. Yeah. And then, it's working together on how do we support each other through this change, and it's unprecedented, this level of change, which is fantastic. Society's driving positive movements in women's rights and women's access to work and all these types of things. And then we're just working out what does that mean in terms of the role that we've all got to play in different facets of our lives, it's a really great challenge.
Notwithstanding the role that you play at home surrounded by 4 women. I remember you and I had a discussion about that last year. I was like, what is it like? You know, you're the only boy at home.
Yeah, I am. I'm really lucky. The girls are amazing, but they love chatting, and we go to the footy together. Yeah. So they're wonderful.
But they also have a favourite song at the moment, don't they?
They do. So there's some fantastic things that as parents you can share with your kids. And I did an interview recently with an author called Madonna King, and she talked about dads and daughters and how to connect with dads and daughters. She has a book about it, and she talked about points of connection that are unique to the dad and the daughter relationship. And one of those, as I just mentioned, is something like going to the footy. So that as the girls grow up, you've got this point of connection.
Do you all barrack for the same team?
We do. We're all Hawk supporters. which is we've been there the last 2 weeks, and it's just a really fun thing to do together. And another one is music. I really love music. I always have, and to see my girls showing an interest in music and latching on to new songs and sharing that with me is something I really enjoy. So there's an artist that they've introduced me to called Aimee Shark, and I really like her music, so it's great. It's something we can share together.
Fantastic. She's very popular amongst with Hamish and Andy as well. She gets a good billing whenever they're doing something.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're going to go straight to this song. It is Aimee Shark. And to your girls,
yes,
I said hi. Don't go away though. You're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC, and you're here with Rae Bonney, where it really is okay to not be okay. There you go. We're right back. That was Aimee Shark. Shark.
Like baby shark.
Sharp. I think we were just talking about that. But anyway, welcome back. You're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC, and I'm here joined by Jeremy Macvean. He's the co-founder of The Fatherhood. It's a new media platform and community designed to help dads survive and thrive. It's a lifestyle resource that delivers support, inspiration and daily laughs to dads through daily content and timely events. I've been a little on this journey with you, Jeremy, but I'm going to hand over to you to tell the how, what, why, where and when of the fatherhood. And I would really like you to start with when I was a little boy.
When I was a little boy? I'm way back.
Because that's how all good stories start, don't they? Unless you're a little girl.
Okay, this is dangerous, handing the microphone across. When I was a boy.
But before we do, while we were on the break, your family did text in and tell you how proud they are of you.
That's very sweet. It makes me want to tear up a bit, I got to say.
I reckon I'll cry before the end of the show.
Yeah, so they're out there listening. Amara, Nellie and Violet are listening with my wife,
What beautiful
Emily.
names.
Yeah, we're proud of those
How did you come up with them?
Name
Scrabble?
books and things, yeah. We just pick them up over life and, we're drawn to them and they seem to fit their personalities.
Yeah, Violet wasn't from Willy Wonka.
No, it wasn't, no. Nellie was a little bit inspired by Nellie Furtado.
Oh, right.
Yeah, spelt differently.
Yes.
She's Nellie. Whereas, but yeah, just picked up through the traps. And
There you go. So let's start, I'll kick it off, with the co-founders, because you haven't done this all by yourself.
No.
Although there's only 3 of you, and anyone who's listening in, just if you type into Google The Fatherhood being 2 words, not 1, it should come up straight away, and you go onto the website and it's endless.
We've been busy.
It's endless, and you read something and then you get all inspired, and then you read the next thing, and you just keep on upping the ante. So you guys, the co-founders or directors, you've got yourself, of course.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. So the-father-hood.com, and it happened totally organically out of a need. So we're 3 dads working like everyone else, and I was actually, from my perspective, I was working with Andrew McCutcheon. He's a writer by trade. He used to write for GQ magazine.
He's a very good writer.
Yes, he is.
If you're listening in, Andrew, I love your use of expletives as well. He doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. He's a passionate man, Andrew. He's awesome. So Andrew used to write for GQ and now has his own. He's entrepreneurial. He has a business called Time and Tide, which profiles watches. So it's a media business. So he's been doing this in the past, and I was working with him on his business, and we've got mirrored lives. He has a psychologist as a wife. He has 3 daughters. We're the same age. We both like music, and it became a thing where we'd start phone calls or meetings talking about work and just go, how's stuff going, mate? What's going on? And we just share stories of being dads and ailing bodies and other things that come up. And so that just led to us having a really close connection pretty quickly. And he was, at the same time, Andrew was talking to Luke Benedictus, who was at that point the editor of Men's Health magazine. And so again, an amazing writer, been connecting with men for a very long time. And Luke was seeing through his work this focus on dads and the focus on that, fatherhood being a topic of interest, and the changing gender roles. And it led to a three-way conversation between us, just thinking, well, there's so many brands. There's Essential Baby, Babyology, Mamma Mia, Kids Spot. I could go on. Plenty of parenting brands and sites out there that are leaning, they're feminine, they're leaning towards mums. And we were just like, well, where's the one for dads? Where's the one that that talks to us as fathers and about the issues that are similar for all parents, but then there are some things or perspectives and ways of approaching things that relate specifically to dads. So it all began really organically out of where is it? What do you reckon, mate? We're like, do you think we could do something? And it was going to be we were just chatting. Never forget, this time last year we were doing a Google Hangout, or actually later in the year than 12 months ago. And Luke,
Google Hangout. Wouldn't have been saying that 20 years ago, would you?
We were just chatting about it. And then Luke said, look, guys, I really believe in this, and I'm gonna do this full time. And so that was a real moment where it was like, oh, wow, this is going to not just be a hobby or a thing we do on this.
Who were you doing that with, Luke?
So that's when it became really real really quickly, which was really exciting and also scary. So we got together and, as you said, we've written a whole heap of stuff, created the brand, created the website, and moved super fast. And it's one great thing about being three of us that have day jobs, so it's fairly challenging from a time perspective, but we've got a lot done in a really short amount of time. So interviewed a whole bunch of people and created a heap of stuff.
Yeah, amazing interviews with some pretty prominent globally prominent people.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to, I mean, Andrew and Luke are experts at that, and that's what we're trying to bring in to connect with everyday people. They don't want to hear about heavy things all day. They don't want to hear about clinical things all day. They want to hear about the reality, the grit and the honesty that comes through. So dropping that guard and being really kind of honest and raw, and also from people that we might relate to through the media, whether it's celebrities like a Chris Hemsworth or, that's not like an everyday dad, but, oh, wow, he's got the same kind of issues going on as I do. So
one of the first articles I read was the Matt Damon one, and I actually read it 3 times before it actually resonated with me, because I couldn't really quite believe what I was reading. And just the way that Andrew has written the article, you just felt like you were there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that, because it's my favourite story so far this week?
Absolutely. So Andrew loves telling a story. Through his work with Time and Tide, he ended up on a yacht.
In Monaco.
Yeah, in Monaco, with Chris Hemsworth and Matt Damon, believe it or not. And so he loved, they were on this yacht for a couple of days and drinking wine and all sorts of things with no kids. And he said they were all off the leash because they had no kids and everyone was having a good time. But a lot of the conversation was about parenting. They were talking about nannies and everyday kind of stuff. And Andrew just had, I think, his 3rd child at that point, and he tells this story where Matt Damon goes, oh, you're in the blur. You're in the blur when you're just, you're at that early stage where you don't know who you are and you're just struggling to get through. And Matt Damon shouts out to his wife, hey, this guy here, he's in the blur. He's in and just that thing that we all talk about.
Yeah.
And so for Andrew, that was a real moment of inspiration, even being around these A-class, A-grade celebrities that we only see generally through our TV screens. And yes, they're super wealthy and live a lifestyle that most of us wouldn't even dream of. When you drop that facade, they're talking about the same stuff. They're talking about struggling to get through, and they have more social nannies and support, but still the emotional issues are similar, and the issues in terms of relationships are similar. And so that really inspired Andrew that there's a commonality between parents that we could really talk about, and for us, it's about dropping the guard and normalising the challenges to go, everyone, okay, it's okay to feel this. Like, I thought parenting was supposed to be the most joyous time in my life. It's okay to realise that your sex life dries up, or that financial things become a bit of a struggle, or I become a bit distant from my partner because we're ships in the night trying to keep the
Or I didn't fall in love with my child at first sight.
Those things. That's these, and for us with the fatherhood, it's about being inclusive, and different relationships have different situations, and being honest about that. So, yeah, on a boat with Thor and Jason Bourne is one extreme, and another extreme is what's happening in everyone's house out there every day, and there's a lot of common links. So by being honest and raw, we're able to drop the facade and have us accept some of the things that are going on in our own lives by being honest in that way. So, yeah, Andrew's an amazing writer. So by showing the glitz and glamour of being on a yacht in Monaco, it's an interesting read, but beneath that is, hey, we've all got this stuff going on.
But to be so inspired to come back, and that was his moment where he said, this is what I'm doing, I'm inspired. For
sure. So that was his, and Luke had his own, and it was just different moments. It was talking to each other. And yeah, for me, there was a series of. I actually sent Andrew an email at one point, just saying that. I'll tell you the story. So I'd be going. Emily, my wife, and I were. We'd have discussions as you do as a couple, and at times, the next day, she would send me a link from an article sitting on one of these sites, like a Mamma Mia or something, saying, "See, this is how I'm feeling. This has said it better than I can," kind of thing. So, which is a really fantastic thing. So then I could read that article and then get a perspective of what she was thinking or how she was feeling, and with whatever the challenge may have been. But I did have this thought of, where's my version of that? Where's the site that can express how I'm feeling in a better way than I can put words to? Firstly, it makes me realise that I'm not the only person going through that. And secondly, it kind of helps give me a bit of strength, because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not the only person, and this is okay, and these feelings are normal and justified. And so for me, I then shot Andrew an email inspired by that thought, saying, where is that voice? Like, there could be a really great voice with humour and relatability, and that'd be a really powerful thing for dads out there to be able to read these stories and go, yeah, that's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. And have a laugh about these things and have a cry about those things too. So I shot Andrew an email, and he just wrote straight back to me going, mate, we're in the same place here. So that
is that what you said in the email? Like,
yeah, I said, where is this voice? And he'd been on a boat with Thor and Jason Bourne, and so it just led to this discussion. And then Luke had similar thoughts. Andrew and Luke had been on a plane having similar conversations, and from that it was just an identified need that, and from that the fatherhood was born.
Wow! Oh, literally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very quickly.
It's when you were just describing then about having a voice and using somebody else's story for your voice, that really resonated with me, because I was speaking with, in fact, we've had a lot of activity on social media this weekend just born from this interview today, a lot of discussion going on about dads and things like that, and how men, well, the stereotype of men, and that's one thing that you want to smash down, is this stereotypical dad thing.
Yep.
That men don't talk, men don't show emotion, and men don't seek help, which is crap. Mm-hmm. It's just having that opportunity or the pathway or the resource to be able to attach to. And I was speaking with Glenn Poole this morning, who's the CEO of the Australian Men's Health Forum, of which I sit on the board of. We're the peak body for men's health in Australia. And he was saying the same thing about, is it really that difficult for men to speak, or is there just no resources for men and no platforms for men to resonate with? And that's a very long way of me name dropping Australian Men's Health Forum, and also underscoring that men do want to speak and connect, but there's just nothing out there until something like the fatherhood comes along that gives them a voice.
Yeah, and we've seen, I know you see that every day in the work that you do, Rae, and with the work that I do with Movember, men do speak. It's about making it safe, making it socially acceptable to show emotion. And we have been taught, there's all those sort of masculine stereotypes that have been spoken about a lot in the media, like stoicism and soldiering on, and they're fantastic traits at times when we do need to get through stuff. Definitely. And men bring amazing things to society, but when they can lead to really poor outcomes where there's a lack of sharing and a lack of showing emotion or showing vulnerability. And so there's a lot of work to be done there, but I'm really confident, because of the work that so many great peak organisations are doing, that there is a real change happening now. where it's, you can see that in whether it's footballers taking time out because they're not feeling quite right mentally, and there's a significant shift happening in terms of, like we were saying earlier, gender roles in parenting, but just gender roles generally. And so I'm really hopeful of this change that's happening for society, but in this case, men's health and men's mental health, and the shifting masculine stereotypes or the expectations of men, because men will talk, they want to talk, they want that. We're all emotional beings.
Yes, and preserving those masculine attributes. You're talking about stoicism and things like that. Those things are very present in women as well, and I think we it's important that we emerge those attributes in the feminine side of things as well. But I was on the way here, I was listening to another radio station, but there was an interview going on with a guy who's talking about his daughter who's playing soccer, and this pep talk that he was giving her before she went on, and about sort of just do your best and have fun, and and her team ended up winning. But I thought, wow, I wouldn't have been listening 10 years ago. I may not have been listening to something like that on the radio about a father talking about his daughter playing soccer, which is was typically a male sport. And we take for granted. You and I was talking before about, since we've been really immersed in men's health over, say, the last 10 years, how far we really have come.
Hugely.
It's really inspiring when you take that look back and that reflection to go, wow, we really are getting somewhere.
Because it's human nature that we look to the work that's yet to be done. And so it's just what in our own lives or in change like this. So there is so much change to be done, but there has been just such phenomenal shifts. Like last weekend, I recorded the AFL Women's Grand Final, and I was able to sit there with my 3 girls and watch Aimee Shark sing the song at the start, and then watch the girls. And for my 3 girls to see that, that's just such a shift in terms of what kids are growing up with now and the expectations that they grow up with, that I can do that. And there's not these boy and girl separations, that women are fierce and strong and fight and all these fantastic traits. So I actually got a bit emotional watching that, because just to be able to sit there and share it with my girls and think, wow, this change is happening at such a rapid rate, and then, which is just awesome. And then that's where the fatherhood comes in, is trying to then as a community talk about that and make sense of that, so that we can all continue thriving in amongst the change and not get too confused.
Yeah, well, now that you've said that, one of my questions I have is, what do you think are challenges for men now, especially with the lens of the fatherhood? What would you be sort of leaning to give dads extra support with?
For us, it's talking openly about it being really unclear what success looks like.
As a dad.
Like, I do think in generations gone by, if you provided and put your food on the table and did those types of things, you're being a good dad. You were doing the right thing. And you were involved and take the kids to sport, and my dad was around a lot.
Yes.
But I would have classified success, inverted commas, as being much simpler. Whereas now... But
also, sorry to interrupt, but that question back then or even now is, when you ask a man what he does, it's what's your occupation?
Yeah,
what's your label? What defines you? But rarely can men answer, I'm a dad.
That's right.
Simply, I'm a dad. Is that sexy? I think it's becoming sexier, but traditionally that wouldn't have been a sexy answer.
No, that's right. And so your dads would be saying, and I live within this. Oh, I've got this job. And you go straight to the title on your business card, and then that's your self-definition.
Yes.
And it's a really good example, Rae, where now in today's world where I'm a dad, and so how do I define myself as a person? How important is my role as father, and my role as a breadwinner, and my role as a brother, and my role as a son? These things are becoming much more mashed together.
Yes.
And so that is a significant challenge for all of us now, is how do we define ourselves, self-definition, and then off the back of that, how do we define success in our lives? Success is a funny word, but how do we... Well,
it's the only word we've got really that we can relate to at the moment. But keeping on to reinforcing that and going back to the fatherhood through those stories, through those examples of others, to reinforce that, for example, dads that stay at home and take care of their children, it's not a cop-out.
No, it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yes, and that's becoming, I think, less and less of a stigma for men now that it's okay.
Yeah, and there's so much work to be done. Like in the space of paid parental leave, people are still being asked to define themselves as a primary and a secondary carer. And so that's a difficult thing for any parent to do, and I imagine plenty of mums out there to think, define themselves as a secondary carer legally, so the dad can step forward and be called the primary carer and take paid parental leave. And that just leads to all sorts of emotional challenges, rather than saying, look, we're a team here, we're sharing the care, and we don't have a captain of the home. Like in many couples now, there's not a captain of the workforce. There's not one person that earns the money and the other person. So it's shared in terms of the working out of the home, and then the working in the home is shared. So just how to manage that, and how to manage your time, and how do I be a good partner? How do I be a good dad?
Yes,
is there's question marks on that, and I see a lot of the dads that I talk to struggling to work their way through it. What do I need to be? All right, I've got to be successful at work because I've got to pay the mortgage and I want to do that, but we're sharing that more than we did a generation ago. But I've got to be home by a certain time to be able to help out, and if a kid's sick, I need to be able to help with that too. So just those things are shifting, whereas a generation ago it was much more the male goes out to work, the female's the primary carer. And so... Unfortunately,
well, not unfortunately, but we can't shift biology. And the fact is women bear children, and that there is there's a physical attribute that becomes involved where women probably need to take time off work to actually bear a child.
Yes.
And then I guess that's where roles become more defined at that moment.
Yeah.
And then if there hasn't been that thoughtful family planning, then perhaps, roles can then continue just to meander.
Yeah, and so that's right. And so there's those things that will never shift. And that's one thing I loved about as you mentioned at the start of the show, the what's it called, antenatal class?
Yes.
Yeah, where they just said, get involved. Like, you want to be a good dad, just have a crack.
So that was men only antenatal class.
It was, yeah. We sat there for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And that was a moment, like you were saying earlier, Rae, a moment for the blokes in the room to just sit there and be mindful of the fact that I'm about to become a dad. Actually, I really enjoyed it because the world stopped for 2 hours and I was able to sit there and feel, oh, wow, in a month's time, I can actually really feel it. And
what sorts of things do they cover in a male-centric antenatal class?
It was a while ago now, but that was mostly their benefit for me, is just connecting with other guys around that. And it was around practical things. I remember, kind of nutrition and supporting your wife and sleep, or supporting your partner, and the issues that you're likely to face, those kind of practical things. But for me, what I took out of that, and again, it was 8 years ago, so the biggest thing for me was the time to kind of connect with the idea of being a father before it happened, and that message, which just resonated so strongly with me, of have a crack, and I felt that going through the process of having children. There were some people within the system that were really encouraging of, Dad, come over, we're bathing the baby, get involved. And it's like anything in life, the more you do it, the more confidence you get. So changing the nappy, get involved, breastfeeding, this is how you can kind of help out. And for me, I just wanted a role. I wanted someone to say, in the childbirth process, rub her back, do this, do that, and then I could contribute in some way. And when you get home, this is how you can do it. And so for me, that sort of message, which was the theme throughout that class, of have a crack, get involved, don't stand back. It was like, guys, when it's bath time, don't stand back and think that she can do it better, or the midwife can do it better.
Or I shouldn't.
Yeah, or I shouldn't. It's not mine. No, it's your dad, and get in there. And so for me, that covered everything. Yes. It was whether it's feeding time, bath time, sleep time, anything. Give it a go. And if we can encourage more people to do that, then confidence levels go up, and then everyone benefits from that.
Something that comes up for me quite often in my private practice is I meet with men where having a child hasn't turned out like they expected for both parents. So people that have had children who are disabled or mentally or physically challenged, sometimes their child has died at childbirth, that there doesn't seem to be a lot around to support men in that space. There's quite often if a child dies or it is is incapacitated in some way. There's a lot of focus on women during that period, whereas men, and IVF as well. IVF babies that quite often it takes many years to have a child on IVF, but men don't seem to get that kind of recognition during those processes of grief and loss that we experience as human beings. Do you have a take on that?
I think there's some really. You're right, Rae. It's a common issue across lots of different areas, like you're talking. There's some work being done on that at the moment. For example, a guy called Mark Williams in the UK who's advocating really strongly for postnatal depression identification in men.
Yes.
So screening for postnatal depression being just a routine check, because there's been fantastic work over the last couple of decades in postnatal depression for mums, which we know is a key issue. And,
yes.
But dads can have the same issues, and life gets pretty challenging at times, and it can impact men in
well, again, we forget there's that biological connection between the child and the father.
Yeah.
And I do see many men who experience postnatal depression or didn't realise that's what was happening with them, because there's no identification pathways for men to identify with postnatal depression.
Yeah, so it almost, some people wouldn't think of it as something that's not a particularly masculine topic. And there's some organisations like the Fathering Project that are based in WA, and
yes.
there's some really DGI that are the the Dads Group Incorporated.
Yes.
So those organisations talk about the impact that mental health in dads has on their family, and particularly
yes.
the children. And there was, again, some research out of the UK which showed that if dads are struggling mentally, it impacts their children in the long term. So that's, again, a really strong reason why Mark Williams is advocating for this this screening, because it's actually, whilst it's about helping and supporting dads, the actual outcome is supporting families and healthier families and better environments for children to be raised in, because the whole family is being supported. So as much as we talk about supporting dads, it's really about supporting families.
Every time. I think men's issues in general, when we're talking about building better lives for boys and men, it's about everybody.
Yeah.
It's not specifically just for men. It's how do we create better outcomes for everyone.
For sure. And so that's one thing I feel really passionately about, that whilst we're talking about dads issues and men's issues, and there's women's issues and kids' issues and all sorts of different things, it's about building a better society and community for all of us, and just coming at it with a gendered lens in this particular case.
And it does count.
Yeah.
Speaking of gender, Father's Day is coming up in September, which will be just around the corner, or Mother's Day before that. But you've, in your spare time, the three of you, Luke, Andrew and yourself, have cobbled together a book.
We've knocked a book out. Huge fist there, Minna.
As you do. Is it a glossy coffee table style book?
No, it's not quite that large. We didn't have time for something that large. It's a novel size, but a flicker. Lots of a collection of perspectives on fatherhood. It's a celebration of modern dads and what dads bring to their families. It's a Father's Day gift, so out from the start of August in the lead up to Father's Day this September. We're calling it, the book will be called The Fatherhood, a celebration of the new dad generation. So really, really excited to get it out there. The artwork's almost being finalised in the next couple of weeks, so it's ready to go to print. And so there's, as much as it's a collection of different perspectives, there's a really common theme throughout it, and that is that there's never been a better time to be a dad because of all these changes that we've been talking about. And so we've got the opportunity to be hands-on and make a difference and be involved in our kids' lives more than we've ever been before. And so that's a really exciting time to roll the sleeves up and be an involved father. So really exciting. So it's been quick. It's been the team at Murdoch Books that we're working with has said they've never turned a book around this fast before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because Father's Day doesn't move. It's the 1st of September, and they saw what we were doing and saw a great opportunity, like you were saying, Rae. There's some really strong stories on the website. Well, let's turn that into a book. Yeah. So jumped at it. They came to us and we were like, yeah, let's do that. And so it's been very fast, hectic, but I think it'll be worthwhile.
Like induced labour. Bang, you're on.
You're on. There's no turning back. But yeah, it's been great.
Oh, well, will that be in what kind of stores?
In all good bookstores, from
Big W, Kmart, Target.
And online as well. So all those Booktopia and all those online bookstores, that'll be distributed through their through Murdoch Books, and out from the start of August. Perfect Father's Day gift. Socks and Jocks no longer.
Yeah.
Get the fatherhood book.
Oh, and again, the stories are very compelling and very engaging, and I think if they don't make you smile, then you've got a long way to go. Really cool. Now, we're sort of leading up. We've got half an hour left of the show, Jeremy. Can you believe it?
Wow, that's gone quickly.
It has gone very, very fast. But we still have a few things that to cover in the last half. But let's go to a little break. And when we come back, we're going to sort of touch on a few different things like the new men's health strategy, the first Australian men's health strategy. Well, the one that's got funding attached to it anyway, which is very, very exciting. I'm going to talk about White Owl for Men's Health as well, the charity that I'm involved in, and you're going to be speaking at in August as well. There's a lot happening when it comes to men's health.
There's heaps. Busy year ahead.
It is. So you've chosen another song by well-known group U2.
I have. They're my favourite band. I love them.
And why?
Them, I think, because they're such a band of emotion. They're all about connection, I think, U2, where their concerts about bringing people together and connecting. So they've just always sort of hit me in the heart. And this particular song, One, is my favourite U2 song. I just love it for a few reasons. One, I actually at a footy club's sportsman's night or whatever you called it, sang this song with my brothers. Yeah, we all I played guitar and we sang it side by side. So, and it was about us as being we changed the lyrics and made it about us being we're one but we're not the same. Kind of theme. It was really special that experience. And also the song, the origins of the song, Achtung Baby, which this album's off.
Yes.
My favourite album. But it was a total shift in U2's trajectory. They were the biggest band in the world doing Rattle and Hum, and they went into a studio in Berlin and totally reinvented themselves and had the courage to do it.
Yes.
And were going through masses of self-doubt in reinventing themselves. And I just think it showed such courage, having had such success, going, no, we're going to start again.
Yes. And
they stuck it out, and in that time of doubt, produced my favourite album and continued their career on. But I just admire them so much for having the guts to reinvent themselves and be courageous. Back themselves and step through the discomfort and produce a song like One.
Fantastic. Well, don't go away. You're listening to 94.1 FM, 3WBC. You're with Rae Bonney and Jeremy Macvean. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? You too. Welcome back. The time is 35 minutes past 11 and you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC with Rae Bonney, joined by Jeremy Macvean. He's a son, brother, husband and dad, co-founder of The Fatherhood, which redefines the modern experience where men are raising kids in all kinds of environments. Jeremy, 25 minutes left of the show. I have a question for you. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
How has fatherhood changed you, and what would be the one thing you could give fathers today that you didn't have when you first became a father?
Oh, that's a big question.
There's a lot of words in it as well.
I know. I'll go for the first bit first because I think that's the easier bit. How has fatherhood changed me? I would say fatherhood has changed every aspect of me, and that's so every aspect of my life, and so that everything. So whether that's my relationship with work, my self-definition, my relationship with my partner, my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my friends, and I could talk about each of these things in detail. My own self-definition, I used to play music in bands, and there's no time for that now. My relationship with my body, I sacrificed exercise for a long period of time. So it kind of turns your life on its head for mums and dads. So for me, how to answer that, it's changed everything. I hope that answers that component.
Yes.
The other bit, what would I wish for if I had it again, if we went through it again?
Well, no, what would you give dads today, because you now have a platform for it, that you didn't have when you became a father? Sorry to interject there, but for me, as a mother, what I would tell people is that once you've given birth to your child, there's a placenta that follows. They never tell you about that bit. You still have to give birth to that. So yeah, that's my one tip to people is don't forget there's always the next bit.
Yeah. For me it's kind of that parenting begins when you get at home, that kind of thing. Like it's kind of, there's a delivery room, but there's that vivid memory I've got of walking out of the hospital with Amara, our first daughter, and kind of just walking out with this human and thinking that was an easier checkout than most hotels that I go to. You know, you kind of walk, wow. And you're with your partner and you do that thing, like you drive home and try not to crash the car. And so I wish I'd been kind of, I'm not sure it's better mentally prepared prior or better supported during. It's sort of that thing, like what we're hoping to do with the fatherhood is support dads through that process of wrapping their head around that you're now looking after a human and all those changes are happening in your life, and support through that. And I think I wasn't as supported as I would have liked to have been. Yeah. It's not about my
well, you sort of said
life.
it before as well when the go-to, you know, there's the Mamma Mia and there's the Kids Spot and all those platforms that are fairly female-centric, and so they should be. Yep. But if a dad was wanting to know something or sort out how it feels or what it's supposed to feel like, or what's going on with me, I'm having all of these weird feelings, to have somewhere to go where you've got all of that information in one spot.
Yeah. And having, one thing that Andrew, Luke and I from the Fatherhood talk about is often when you get mums together, they quickly identify as mums. It's sort of their job kind of thing. And so whereas you get dads together and often you identify through what do you do as a job or other things, and rather than connecting on a dad level. And so we're saying, well, let's connect as dads. Let's talk about that. So we have a vision of when guys are catching up, you're quickly talking about, so how's stuff going at home, and the sort of dad issues. So there's that face-to-face communication. But I don't think
the media plays a big role in still keeping things not progressing. Like, you know, you hear ads all the time, especially back to school, mums, you know, lunch boxes. It's always mums, you know, mums need easy access to, you know, bread or something. You know, we have to break down these stereotypes.
We do. And there's a huge amount of change happening and lots more change to continue because and I think I'm guilty of it at times too, you flip back into kind of gender stereotypes and you've got to kind of shake yourself out of it and go, no, it's not necessarily mum doing that or dad doing that. It's different now. And I notice, like, I think I'm definitely biased in the case of thinking that I need to be the earner, like that kind of gender stereotype, and I'm working my own way through that. And so, and I kind of see it coming up in unexpected ways. It's facilitating that shift and that conversation is what we're trying to do.
Well, one of the biggest shifts that occurred last week was that Health Minister Greg Hunt announced a $19.7 million of funding for the 10-year men's health strategy, which is the first. Well, there has been a draft strategy in the past, but this is the first one that's had funding attached to it, which is really, really exciting. It's a start, you know. It's unclear who will be in office to manage this through. I think we're having an election on the 18th of May. Won't get into that one. I'm not very well equipped, but the strategy places a strong focus on the health sector working to deliver more male-friendly services, which I think is super and is exactly what we're talking about today. This isn't about gender politics. This is just recognising that men and women do have different attributes and different needs. We just do. And to really define some of those services and pathways for help for men, I think is just a really, really good start.
Yeah, and there's some fundamental issues there. Like we know that men's mental health outcomes in the case of like the extreme cases of suicide statistics and things are really poor. we also know that men aren't accessing those services, mental health support services, anywhere near as much as women are. So that's a problem there that we need to identify, that we need to work hard to provide services in a way that men will lean into it sooner in the process. We know that the earlier they get involved and get the support, the better the outcomes are going to be. So that's a good example, I think, of taking a gendered lens and an approach to say, well, how can we connect with these guys earlier?
Yeah. And, going away from that, I guess, trying to fix men or change men, or in many cases shame men as well, through some of those mental health services, to make it more about how do we emerge these beautiful masculine attributes that men have and work with them rather than damaging them.
That's right.
So that's really, really exciting. And you because I didn't know you there.
You again.
As you know, I dip my toe into many avenues of men's health, and one of my proudest ones is being involved in White Alpha Men's Health. We're a charity organisation that's been operating now for 4 years, and we started having an annual event at then Etihad Stadium, which is now Marvel Stadium, and raising money for the Australian Prostate Cancer Research Centre. So in the last 4 years, we've raised in excess of $200,000. And you go down there, I love that place. The work that these people do is absolutely amazing. And we can actually see where our money goes, like commode chairs that lift up and down, to make it more comfortable for men when they're being tested or, pre and post surgery. But this year we're raising money specifically for 2 projects. One is called Head Coach, and the University of Melbourne Centre for Positive Psychology, along with APC, are implementing a research and evaluation pilot program which is focused on men within the building and construction industries, which is just a starting point, but it's such a big industry full of men who really time challenged, and there's a lot of small business that operates within construction as well, so very isolating. But the pilot program will run through IncoLink to approximately 200 men to begin with. So that's really exciting. And the other project is our Men's Support Centre at the APC in North Melbourne. It's a waiting area upgrade. So in the second half of 2019, APC are planning to update the current waiting room to provide a retreat for patients that are visiting the centre. And the area will be a place where men can meet up and talk and catch up. We have to get your fatherhood book in there.
Yeah, let's get that. A little flicker.
Definitely. That'll be part of the launch. But we're really so excited about being part of that, and our event this year is on the 2nd of August at Marvel Stadium. Roos and Hawks.
It is.
Which
Great.
is very excited about.
Yep.
And you're going to come and speak on our panel.
Looking forward to it.
So we've got Lance Piccioni. He's coming back. Lance, who is from Love Me, Love You Foundation.
Great work.
He was on the show recently as well. So everyone comes on the show. We've got a whole range of people coming in. Peter Philopoulos, who is CEO of Victorian Football Federation, I think it is. Federation. He's going to be our MC.
It'll be a great event. White Alps is doing such fantastic work, and to see the outcomes, like you're saying, be able to walk into a room and see the benefits in that room in such a tangible way.
Yes.
Must be so satisfying.
It is. And you know Travis Strong, he's one of our founders. You and Travis went to school together.
We did. White Owl came out of my old school, a couple of schoolmates from Yarra Valley, and Travis was one of them.
Yes.
Did just off their own bat. Again, fantastic story. Went, let's do something really positive, and White Owl was born. Yeah.
And going great guns, and bit of a shout out to Travis. I think he's listening in. Travis is also a dad. He's got a little girl, and that's his priority. And whilst he has a really important job, and of course runs White Owl,
in all his spare time, he's making that happen.
But, you know, he's a great dad and does, you know, he just thrives in it, and he's got a great partner in his wife, Gabby, that they have a family that they manage together.
Yeah. And as I was saying with White Owl, him and the team that have pulled it together, but Trav's been key to the success of White Owl. He's kind of been making it happen.
If you want something done, give it to Travis Strong.
He's one of those guys that saw a need and got off his backside and made it happen. So huge admiration for people to do that.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be part of White Owl and you know, contributing to just. It seems small, but when you look at just, you know, if you just can change the comfort of one person, you know, that's a really good job done.
That's right. And you can see that in this case, many, many more than one person, and you can see it in a tangible way. It's not going off into some place that you can't look at and feel it, and so you can see the impact. And so, it's hugely motivating. Yeah.
And where our focus now is to not move away from the event, but to have the event, but actually populate the other 12 months of activity as well. So, you know, we're looking at, in terms of men's health, to be able to set an example. So Jared Boucher, who's one of our committee members, Jared gets up every few months and does a marathon and talks about how he's applying, you know, physical and mental health strategy to preparing for that, you know. And another one of our members, you know, talks about getting prostate cancer checks, and, you know, so we're very, very active in telling good stories about men's health, not this get fixed, you know, kind of scenario. We're leading by example. So
that's right. I agree with your sentiment there. It's like, it's not just things are broken. It's just be more open to look after yourself and do what you need to do.
Or give permission to look after yourself as well, because some of the things that you were speaking about, which are still very present, is that the expectation is that men go to work and earn money, and that, I think that's very, very polarised in our blue-collar workforces, which are primarily populated by men. And that's where a lot of men die. You know, 95% of workplace deaths are men here in Australia. And that's just a no-brainer. You know, we can minimise the risk of those things happening.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that is motivating for me. I know, like, if you said to me, Rae, go and get a blood test, I want to see what your cholesterol's doing. You're my doctor. I'd go, oh yeah, maybe at some stage. If you said to me, go and get a blood test, I need to know what blood type you are in order to make sure your kids are going to be okay, I'd be there that afternoon, that sort of thing. So but it's as people, as humans, and I think I'm guilty of this as guys, you need to realise that looking after your own health is actually helping those around you, because and that, I personally find that really motivating. So the more that we can say, look, looking after yourself is not selfish. It's actually selfish to not to do that.
Well, some of the work that I'm doing in the corporate space around men's health is looking at things, and women's health as well. But if you think, why don't men access general health? And a lot of the time it's because they don't have time. They can't get time off work. You know, it's just too inconvenient. So looking at getting programs within corporations, you know, and it's a no-brainer, having access to a GP. Imagine that at work. So easy. So easy. And that's for men and women, of course. But there are so many things that we're looking at. You know, organisations are doing things really well in some respects around diversity and inclusion, and also better support for flexibility, enabling people to do great work. In fact, I was speaking at ANZ the other day and heard a great story, and after I'd finished speaking, a man came and approached me, and he was telling me that his wife was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis last year, which was a big shock for them, and she, you know, she's functioning, but he has to care for her and she can't work. So ANZ, and this is for everyone, not just for him, but he said, I love working for ANZ because I can come and do a fantastic job doing something I love. I'm supported by a coach and I'm supported by a mentor, specifically around being a better husband for my wife when I get home. So he said, it's just an amazing experience to come to work and not forget about my wife, but actually to be engaged in great work, being supported so I can be great when I get home. And I think sometimes we look at flexibility as not a cop-out, but, it's all about having more time off or not being engaged in your job.
Yeah.
But I thought, I went hats off to ANZ. Really good work in terms of how they create framework around their people to enable them to do well-paid, meaningful work and do a great job.
Yeah, just hearing the way you talk about it there, it's not supporting this person, as you say, to take more time off. It's making them be as well, to perform at their best in their different roles in life. One of those is as an employee, and one of those is as a carer in that case, or maybe father. And so making organisations always say that our greatest asset is our staff, our people are our greatest asset. So it's an investment in.
Who says that? They're not saying that yet, are they?
I've heard that said before. So if that's the case, then it's not. It's investing in helping those people to thrive across all aspects of their lives.
That's
and they bring it to work. Yeah.
Or you look at risk profiles in organisations, and it's only just been very recently that people are coming on to risk profiles to say, actually, people do matter, and if we don't look after our people, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Because, at Beyond, when I was working on the Heads Up program at Beyond Blue about 5 or 6 years ago with Price Waterhouse, we did research on the return on investment by not looking after your people. And I think something like $10.6 billion goes down the drain every year in organisations not taking care of their people. And I think something like $4.6 billion of that is presenteeism. That's people turning up to work and not being engaged.
Yeah, that's huge. And a real challenge with those kind of things is often those corporate inefficiencies are hard to spot. Like, as you're saying, presenteeism, people turning up but not contributing.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that in your average workplace out there that's not doing research or studies on this? It's hard to see. Whereas someone that takes a day off as a mental health day, you can see their seats empty and it seems like a cost to the organisation.
Yes.
Where there are these other costs, staff turnover, re-employing people, upskilling people. That's a significant cost to organisations. Like you're saying, presenteeism is a huge one.
Yeah.
But it's hard to measure, whereas the other things are easier to kind of see.
Yeah, but it's easier to minimise the possibility of it occurring by creating environments that really support people like ANZ, creating a good environment where people want to come to work. Because human beings, we love being engaged. Connection's the biggest thing.
People want to connect, people want to contribute. And I still feel it as a worker now that if I'm not at my desk by 9, I feel a pressure about that. And that's probably a bit self-imposed.
Yes.
But how we're connected now with phones and computers, and we're available all hours of the day. So we genuinely have the opportunity to allow staff to have the flexibility and trust them that they'll deliver for us in their time that they can. But they need to nick off to look after their grandmother who's ill and they need to leave at 4 o'clock. That's okay, because we'll get it back. And if we don't trust our teams, I believe, if we don't trust our teams to do that, then at least
well, that's a whole nother show, isn't it, on trust?
Let's do that.
Now, before we wrap the show, we've got Paula Hogg coming up next, rolling out her lazy Sunday afternoon. She did give me a call and has been detained on Melbourne public transport, which is no surprise at all, given I think all the railway lines are being ripped up at the moment.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things going on.
It's a bit of a kerfuffle. So after the show, I'm gonna actually play some favourite tunes until she gets here. But between you and I wanted to give a bit of a shout out to some of the dads that I know.
Great.
And this isn't exclusive at all. These are just ones that come into my head, that dads that I really, really admire. Not only because they're great dads, but they're great people.
Awesome.
So I've got Leon, Matt and Christian Gans, Gareth Shaw, Steve Carey, who's appeared on the show many times. Steve Carey is one of my greatest supporters. You might know Steve. He's the ex-news director from Channel 7 and has a great story to tell about his life. The fathers of my children as well. I've got 2 fathers to my children, and they're amazing dads. And I'm so grateful that we had children together, even though we're not together.
Yeah.
It's a really good experience, and we made great kids. Aaron Keno, Scott Faccioni, and David Zarafa. They're just the ones that come to my mind.
Good on you, Rae. Some good dads there, I'm sure. Got to meet them at some stage.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm surrounded by fantastic dads. My own dad was a really amazing father. Just gave everything for his kids. My father-in-law comes to mind as well, Greg Tunks, really wonderful guy.
Tunks. Oh, thinking I've seen that name, Tunks, recently. I thought social media.
There'll be social media.
The Tunkses have been chiming in on social media. Yeah,
that's them. That's the crew. So they're the two that come to mind firstly, and then I'd then say my crew, my support crew. So dads that I share the journey with, Trent Roberts, Martin Brown.
Brownie.
Yeah, Brownie, Marty. And of course, I can't go past Andrew McCutcheon and Luke Benedictus, the dads that I'm on the current journey with, that we share every day together. So yeah, they're the first to mind.
Well, and well done. Just before we wrap,